Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Ready to dive headfirst into AI risk management. Today we're going deep, using 25 seriously thought-provoking questions and answers. Think like a CRISC exam, but for real life. These aren't just some theoretical test questions, though.
Right.
They're actually pulled from what experts are grappling with right now as AI gets more and more, well, everywhere.
Absolutely. And it's getting embedded so deeply into our lives, makes understanding these risks super important for everyone, whether you're working directly with AI or just living in a world that AI is shaping.
Yeah, no escaping it, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's jump right in. Question 1 hits hard. What is a primary risk associated with using AI in decision-making processes?
Okay, so
I mean, think about it. AI is calling the shots in so many areas now, like what we even see online to maybe even like medical diagnoses. What could possibly go wrong there?
right. Well, the source material points out this big concern, and it's shared by a lot of experts. It's this thing called bias in algorithmic outcome.
Oh, bias. Explain that a little more.
So basically, AI learns from all the data we feed it. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But here's the catch. If that data has pre-existing biases, the AI is going to soak those up too.
Oh.
And that can lead to, well, you can guess, decisions that are discriminatory, maybe even unfair.
So it's not enough to just have some super fast computer churning out choices.
Right.
It's all about what you're feeding it. So then how does this actually play out in the real world?
Well, the explanation section, it gives us a scenario. Imagine AI being used to approve loans, okay?
Hmm.
If the data it's using to learn has this historical bias against a certain group of people, the AI might unfairly deny loans to qualified people from that group.
Oh, wow.
Even if the algorithm itself, on the surface looks all neutral.
Chilling, right? It's like the system itself is already prejudiced. Makes you wonder if we can ever really trust AI, to be fair.
Yeah.
Which, a perfect segue to question 2. It asks, what is a key consideration for managing AI-related risks?
This one's all about transparency and explainability of AI models. We can't just treat AI like some mysterious black box, right? It spits out decisions and we just accept them. Nope. We got to know the WHY behind the what.
You mean like being able to trace how the AI got to a decision?
Exactly. It's like, how did it arrive at that outcome?
Yeah.
And the source material is really clear that this traceability, it's like the foundation for trusting AI. If we can understand the factors that led to a decision, we can then say, okay, were these factors fair? Were they unbiased? Especially important in those fields where the stakes are really high, like medicine or, law enforcement.
Right. Because if a medical AI is like, hey, give this treatment,
Yeah.
you'd want to know, like, why? What's the logic? What information was used?
Totally.
Makes sense. All right, on to question 3, and this one sounds a bit official. What is the primary purpose of an AI governance framework?
It does sound official, but it's for good reason. The answer really boils down to this: ensuring compliance with ethical and regulatory standards. So, think of an AI governance framework as a set of rules, guidelines, that shape how AI is developed and then how it's actually used.
So like a rule book to keep things from going off the rails.
It's more like guardrails, I guess, guiding AI development in the right direction. And the source material goes a bit deeper here, saying that a good framework should include things like clear policies for how you handle data, mechanisms for accountability, and making sure it all aligns with those relevant laws and regulations out there.
Okay, so it's all about making sure AI plays by the rules, both ethically and legally.
Right.
Makes sense. All right, question 4 shifts gears a bit.
Mhm.
What is a common risk of using AI in cybersecurity? I mean, you'd think AI would be perfect for that, right?
You would. It's got so much potential in that area.
Catching the bad guys online.
Yeah, but the answer here warns us about over-reliance on AI leading to false positives and false negatives.
So that means, like, the AI could either miss actual threats or, like, flag harmless stuff as dangerous.
Exactly. The explanation uses this really helpful analogy. Think about a security camera, but it's got AI that's supposed to detect intruders. It might get really good at recognizing patterns,
Yeah.
But then a really clever attacker could fool it. Maybe they disguise themselves or they mimic normal behavior and boom, that's a false negative, a missed threat.
And on the flip side, the AI could freak out about your grandma because she's wearing a hoodie thinking she's a burglar.
Exactly, a false positive. And in cybersecurity, both of those mistakes can have huge consequences. So while AI can be a powerful tool, we can't just blindly trust it. Gotta have that human oversight and critical thinking.
Which leads perfectly into question 5. What is the role of a risk manager in AI implementation? Someone's going to be responsible for keeping an eye on all this, right?
For sure. The source material is clear. The risk manager's primary job is to identify and mitigate the risks associated with AI systems. They're the ones scooping out all the potential pitfalls from, like we said, data bias to security vulnerabilities, and then they're the ones figuring out the strategies to minimize those risks.
So a crucial role.
Yeah.
And I bet a really tough one, considering all the complexities we've already uncovered.
Definitely not for the faint of heart. And it just keeps getting tougher as AI applications expand. And speaking of getting tougher, here's a really interesting question. Which of the following is an example of an AI ethical risk?
Ooh, ethics. Now we're getting philosophical. Does this mean, like, AI starts making moral judgments?
Not quite that dramatic,
Well,
but the answer they give is lack of transparency in decision-making. Remember how we talked about explainability being super important? Well, if we don't understand how an AI system is reaching its conclusions, it's practically impossible to say if those decisions are ethically sound.
so even if the outcome seems okay, the process behind it might be ethically iffy if we can't really examine it.
Right.
What kind of impact could that have in the real world?
The source material gives a pretty powerful example. Think of an AI system that's used for, say, parole decisions.
Okay.
If it denies someone parole, but we don't know why, how can we be sure that decision wasn't based on things like race or socioeconomic background, even if those factors aren't supposed to be considered?
Wow, that's scary to think about.
Right.
It seems like AI isn't just about technical risks. It's about these deep philosophical ones, too.
Yeah.
Societal ones.
Totally. And that's what makes this whole field so fascinating, but also a little daunting, honestly.
Yeah.
But hey, we're just getting started.
Okay.
Question 7 brings us back to a familiar theme. What is a key challenge in managing AI risks related to data quality?
I'm noticing a theme here.
Yeah.
Data seems to be at the heart of a lot of these AI risks, wouldn't you say?
You're absolutely right. The answer emphasizes ensuring the data is accurate, complete, and unbiased. It's that old saying, garbage in, garbage out, right? If the data used to train the AI model is flawed, the AI's output is going to be flawed too.
So it's not just about having lots of data. It's about having the right kind of data.
Exactly.
What does the explanation say about actually ensuring that data quality?
It lays out a few key points. First, got to be super careful about where we're getting our data from in the first place. Like, is it actually representative of the real world, or does it have hidden biases? Second, we've got to actively clean and curate that data, get rid of errors, inconsistencies, all that.
Yeah.
And then finally, we have to constantly monitor the data for drift.
Drift. Sounds like a sci-fi term. What's that?
It does, right? But it's a real concern. It means, like, the data gets outdated or it doesn't reflect the real-world situation anymore. Think of an AI system that's used to predict traffic patterns.
Okay.
But it was trained on data from before the pandemic.
Okay.
If it doesn't account for the shift to, like, remote work, its predictions are going to be way off.
So the AI needs regular checkups, kind of like a car. Which brings us to question 8. Which of the following is a technical risk associated with AI systems? Hopefully this one isn't too techy for me.
Don't worry, the source material keeps it pretty straightforward. The answer here is model drift over time, which, hey, we just talked about.
Oh, right.
Basically, it means the AI model's performance can start to decline as the data it learned from becomes, well, less relevant.
So even if we start with good data, it can go bad as time goes on.
Think of it like a student who memorized the textbook, right? But they didn't keep up with any new discoveries. Their knowledge would be outdated. The explanation emphasizes that we need to regularly monitor and retrain AI models to fight against this drift.
Okay, so I'm seeing how managing AI risk is this ongoing process. It's not a one-time fix. So, like, where do we even begin with all this? Is there some step-by-step guide?
Well, question 9 gives us a starting point. What is the primary purpose of conducting a risk assessment for AI systems?
That's sensible.
It is. The source material's answer is pretty straightforward, identifying and prioritizing risks for mitigation. So think of a risk assessment as a systematic checkup for your AI system. You're looking for potential weaknesses, vulnerabilities, figuring out how likely they are to happen and how bad the impact would be if they did.
It's like a risk inventory.
Right.
What could go wrong? How bad would it be?
Exactly. And then the crucial part, prioritizing those risks. You can't tackle everything at once, so you got to focus on the most critical stuff first. The explanation uses a good example here. Imagine an AI system that's used for, like, self-driving cars.
Okay, high stakes.
You definitely want to prioritize risks related to safety, right?
Yeah.
Like the AI failing to recognize a pedestrian, that's got to be a higher priority than, say, the AI playing the wrong music in the car.
Yeah, that makes sense. Prioritize the big stuff. But then there's also the law, right? Don't we have regulations around AI?
Definitely. And question 10 dives into that. Which of the following is a regulatory risk associated with AI? It's a fast-changing area, but the source material flags non-compliance with data protection laws as a major concern.
So AI developers can't just do whatever they want with our data. There are
It's
rules.
time. Think of regulations like GDPR, which are designed to protect consumer data. AI systems often handle tons of personal info, right? If that's not done according to the law, there can be serious consequences for the companies involved.
Okay, so AI's got to play by the rules, not just ethically, but legally too.
Right.
Speaking of rules, what about the security of the AI systems themselves? Aren't they like vulnerable to hacking, just like any other computer system?
Great question. Question 11 tackles that head on. What is a key consideration for ensuring the security of AI systems?
I'm really hoping the answer isn't just use a strong password.
Thankfully, it's a little more nuanced than that. The answer is regularly updating and patching AI models.
Okay.
Just like any software, AI systems can have vulnerabilities. Hackers can exploit those.
So you can't just build a secure system and call it a day. You got to keep it updated.
Yeah, stay ahead of those bad guys. The explanation compares it to keeping your computer's antivirus software up to date. New threats are always popping up, so developers need to constantly be releasing those patches, those updates, to fix those security holes.
I get it.
Yes.
Okay, AI in finance. That sounds a bit risky. Question 12 asks, which of the following is a risk of using AI in financial services? I'm guessing it's not just about losing your password there.
You're right to be concerned. The answer here focuses on algorithmic trading errors. AI is being used more and more to make those split-second trading decisions in the financial markets.
Right.
But even a tiny error in the algorithm can have, massive financial consequences.
Yeah, I've heard those stories about flash crashes caused by algorithms going haywire. So AI can bring speed and efficiency to finance, but also a whole new level of risk.
Exactly. That's why risk management is so crucial in that sector. Which takes us to question 13. What is the primary goal of AI risk monitoring?
So is this like having a security camera pointed at the AI 24/7, making sure it doesn't do anything sneaky?
That's a funny way to think about it.
Yeah.
But really, the answer is continuously identifying and addressing emerging risks. AI is constantly evolving, so new risks are always popping up.
Okay, so it's not just about fixing the problems we already know about, but also like anticipating what might go wrong in the future.
You got it.
Yeah.
The explanation emphasizes how important it is to have systems in place that can detect these emerging risks early on
Right.
and then adapt our mitigation strategies as needed, being proactive, not reactive.
Got it. Be proactive. So who's actually doing all this monitoring? Are we talking about a whole army of AI experts?
Well, question 14 throws a bit of a curveball. It asks, which of the following is a human-related risk in AI implementation?
Wait a minute. Are you saying humans are the problem here?
Sometimes, yeah. The answer highlights a very real challenge: lack of skilled personnel to manage AI systems. We need people who get both the technical side of AI and the ethical societal implications.
So it's not enough to just build the tech. We need people who know how to use it responsibly.
Exactly. And right now, there's a real shortage of qualified pros who can bridge that gap. The explanation points out that this skills gap is a big obstacle for organizations trying to implement AI ethically and effectively.
So it's not just about robots taking over. It's about us humans being ready to manage this powerful tech. What about healthcare? AI feels like it could revolutionize medicine, but also seems pretty risky.
You're right on both counts, and question 15 gets right into that. What is a key risk of using AI in healthcare? Well, the answer here, it really highlights a concern that's especially sensitive when we talk about healthcare. It's a misdiagnosis due to flawed algorithms. We'd love to think AI can always give us perfect medical diagnoses, but the reality is, these systems are still kind of in their early stages. They can make mistakes.
So even with all that processing power, AI could still miss something that a human doctor would catch. That's a little unsettling.
It is, yeah. The source material really emphasizes that we need to be cautious, not relying too much on AI in healthcare, especially when it comes to those big decisions like diagnosis and treatment plans. Patient safety has got to be the top priority.
It seems like AI in healthcare is still a work in progress then. We need to be careful, make sure the tech is really ready before we, hand over the reins.
For sure. High stakes, for sure. All right, let's shift gears a bit. Question 16 takes us to the world of chatbots. Which of the following is a risk associated with AI-powered chatbots? Every website I go to these days, there's a chatbot popping up asking if I need help.
I know, sometimes they're helpful, gotta admit. But other times, oh man, they just frustrate me. What could go wrong with these things besides being annoying?
Well, this answer brings up a risk that's important for all sorts of online interactions: data privacy breaches. Chatbots, they're often collecting personal information from users during those conversations.
So like if I'm telling a chatbot about my travel plans, my latest purchases, that data could be vulnerable.
That's the concern. The explanation reminds us that if these systems aren't properly secured, hackers could get their hands on that data. It's a good reminder we should always be mindful of what we're sharing online, whether we're talking to a human or a machine.
Yeah, good point. Speaking of machines, what about self-driving cars? They seem amazing, but kind of terrifying too, right? Question 17 asks, what is a key risk of using AI in autonomous vehicles?
This one touches on a fear a lot of people have: system failures leading to accidents. Self-driving cars rely on these super complex AI systems to navigate, but even a small hiccup in the system, well, it could be disastrous.
We've all seen those headlines about self-driving car accidents, and it's a reminder that the tech isn't perfect yet. The stakes are really high when it comes to safety. So what does the source material say about, like, mitigating those risks?
It really stresses the importance of testing, like rigorous testing and redundancy in the systems.
Mm.
The developers have got to put these cars through every possible scenario to find those weaknesses before they're out on the road with real people.
Yeah, better to find and fix those glitches in a controlled environment than out there in traffic. Okay, on to something a little less life or death, huh? Question 18 asks, which of the following is a risk of using AI in recruitment processes? I feel like so many companies are using algorithms to screen job candidates these days.
They are, and the answer here brings us back to that recurring theme: bias in candidate selection. Remember we talked about how AI can inherit biases from the data it's trained on?
Yeah.
Well, that same problem can pop up in hiring. If the AI system learns from data that's got, existing biases from the workplace, it might unfairly screen out qualified candidates from underrepresented groups.
So instead of making hiring more diverse and inclusive,
Yeah.
AI could actually, make those inequalities worse.
That's the risk. And that's why experts are saying, hey, we need to carefully audit these AI hiring systems, make sure they're fair, they're unbiased. We don't want AI just reinforcing the status quo. We want it to help create a more equitable workplace.
Right, absolutely. This is all starting to feel kind of overwhelming, honestly. AI is touching every part of our lives, and every application seems to come with its own set of risks.
It's true, AI is becoming more and more pervasive, and as it spreads to those more complex systems, the potential consequences of failures or, misuse, they become even bigger. Which brings us to question 19. Which of the following is a risk of using AI in supply chain management?
Even without AI, supply chains seem like these crazy complex things to manage.
They are, and the answer highlights a risk that could have really widespread consequences: over-reliance on AI leading to supply disruptions. AI can be super helpful in optimizing those supply chains, forecasting demand, but it's not perfect.
So if we put too much faith in AI's predictions, things could really go wrong.
Exactly. The explanations section uses an example. Imagine an AI system that's managing a global supply chain for some vital component, like microchips. If the AI gets the demand prediction wrong, or it doesn't take into account some sudden disruption like a natural disaster, it could lead to shortages and delays across industries.
Wow. So even in something that seems purely logistical, like supply chains, we still need that human oversight, that critical thinking, to make sure AI isn't making those big mistakes.
Absolutely. AI can be a powerful tool there, but it has to be used thoughtfully in conjunction with human expertise. Question 20 takes us to something we interact with almost every day: customer service. Which of the following is a risk of using AI in customer service?
It feels like I'm talking to more chatbots than humans when I need help online these days. Sometimes it works okay, but other times it's just .yoko.
I hear you. And the answer gets at a subtle but important risk: loss of human touch and customer dissatisfaction. Chatbots, they can be efficient at handling those simple routine inquiries, but they often lack the empathy, the nuance, to deal with more complex situations or those emotionally charged ones.
It's like when you're trying to explain this complicated problem to a chatbot, and it just keeps giving you those canned responses that don't even address the issue.
Exactly. The explanation emphasizes that customer service, it's really about building relationships, building trust. And AI, at least right now, isn't that great at that.
So even in customer service, where efficiency is so important, there's still a need for that human element to provide that personal touch.
Absolutely. Finding that right balance is key. Question 21 takes us to an area where you'd think AI would be perfect. Fraud detection. What is a key risk of using AI in fraud detection?
You'd think AI would be amazing at spotting those patterns, those anomalies that indicate fraud.
You'd think so, right. And it does have huge potential there. But this answer, it highlights a potential pitfall: increased false positives. AI systems, they're trained to look for certain indicators that suggest fraudulent activity, right? But sometimes those indicators can be misleading, and a legitimate transaction might get flagged as suspicious.
So even when we want AI to be objective, just data-driven, there's still that risk of errors. And those errors can impact people. Imagine having your credit card frozen because some AI mistakenly thought your purchase was fraud.
Exactly. The explanation section emphasizes the need for careful calibration and ongoing monitoring of these systems. We want to catch the fraudsters, of course, but we don't want to be inconveniencing innocent customers.
Yeah, finding that balance is super important. Okay, on to question 22, which is about another area where AI seems promising. Which of the following is a risk of using AI in predictive maintenance? I've heard AI can be used to, like, anticipate equipment failures before they happen. That sounds amazing.
It does sound amazing, and there's a lot of potential there. But the answer to this one warns about over-reliance on AI leading to missed maintenance. AI can analyze sensor data and try to predict when equipment might fail, but, it's not a perfect system.
So if we depend too much on what the AI is telling us, we might miss other warning signs and end up neglecting critical maintenance.
That's right. The explanation uses an example. Imagine a factory using AI to monitor its machines, right? The AI might say, oh, that machine won't need maintenance for another month. But what if a human technician notices some weird vibrations, some strange sounds coming from that machine today?
If they ignore those real-world observations just because the AI says everything's fine, that could lead to a much bigger problem later on.
Exactly. The point here is AI should be used to help humans make decisions about maintenance, not replace human judgment entirely. We need to combine those AI insights with the experience and expertise of those technicians.
AI is a tool, not a replacement. Got it. Now, question 23 takes us to a place that feels very personal. Marketing. What is a key risk of using AI in marketing? I feel like I'm always being targeted by ads that seem to know what I'm thinking. Is that AI?
You're right, AI is playing a bigger and bigger role in marketing, and it's getting really good at targeting us with those personalized messages. The answer here highlights a concern that's, well, very relevant. Data privacy violations. AI-powered marketing systems, they collect a lot of data about our online behavior, our preferences, even our location.
So those creepy ads that seem to follow me around the internet, that's AI.
It often is, and while personalized marketing can be convenient sometimes, there's that dark side. The explanation really emphasizes that if this data isn't handled responsibly, it can be used to manipulate us, to discriminate against us, even to steal our identities.
So AI can help marketers target their messages better, but it brings up some serious ethical questions about how all that data is collected and used. What can we, do as consumers to protect ourselves?
That's a great question. For one thing, be aware of what data you're sharing online. Read the fine print before you click agree on those terms and conditions. Support those companies that prioritize data privacy and use AI ethically. And if you see something that just feels wrong, unfair, like a creepy ad or a questionable data practice, say something.
Don't be afraid to call out those creepy ads. Okay, let's move on to question 24, which takes us to an area where I wouldn't expect to see AI law. Which of the following is a risk of using AI in legal processes? I'm picturing robot lawyers battling it out in court.
That's a fun image. It's a little less dramatic in reality, but AI is being used in a bunch of legal applications, contract review, legal research, things like that. The answer here brings up a potential problem: bias in legal decision-making. Remember, AI systems learn from the data we feed them, and if that data reflects, existing biases in the legal system, the AI could just make those biases worse.
So even in a system that's supposed to be about justice and fairness, AI could actually make things less fair.
That's the worry. The explanation gives some pretty stark examples. Imagine an AI system being used for sentencing recommendations, but it's been trained on data that reflects racial bias. Or AI being used for parole decisions, but it unfairly penalizes people from certain backgrounds.
Wow, that's unsettling. It really shows we need to be super careful when applying AI to areas like law, where fairness is absolutely essential.
I agree completely. And speaking of areas where fairness is crucial, let's look at question 25, which is all about education. What is a key risk of using AI in education?
AI in education. I hadn't really thought about that. What's AI being used for in schools?
Well, it's being explored in different ways, like personalized learning platforms, automated grading systems, things like that. But just like any AI application, there are potential downsides.
Hmm.
The answer here highlights one that's especially concerning: bias in student assessments.
Hold on. So if an AI is grading my homework, it could be biased against me without even realizing it.
That's the risk, yeah. Imagine a grading system that's been trained on essays mostly written by students from a certain demographic. That system might unfairly penalize students whose writing style, their language, doesn't fit that narrow standard.
So even in education, where we want everyone to have a fair chance, AI could introduce new forms of bias if we're not extremely careful about the data and the algorithms being used.
That's exactly the point. And it shows how important it is to be constantly vigilant. Do rigorous testing, have those ongoing conversations about the ethics of using AI in sensitive areas like education.
It's clear that AI is a powerful tool. It's got the potential to change so much about our lives. But as we've seen from these 25 questions, it comes with a whole bunch of risks and ethical challenges. It's a lot to process.
It is, yeah. But I think the key takeaway is that recognizing these risks, that's the first step to managing them. By understanding the potential pitfalls, we can start to figure out how to address them.
So it's not all doom and gloom. There's hope for us to use AI's power safely. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've spent the last two parts, really digging into this whole world of AI risks. From those biased algorithms we talked about to, like, the potential for just relying way too much on these autonomous systems. It's a lot to think about, honestly.
It can be a bit overwhelming, yeah. But I think the key is awareness, right?
Right.
Recognizing these risks is the first step to managing them. Once we understand the potential pitfalls, then we can start thinking about strategies to address them.
So it's not all doom and gloom then. We can harness AI's power safely.
Absolutely. We're not helpless, in the face of these challenges. There are things we can do individually and as a society to make sure AI is developed and used responsibly.
Okay, so solutions. What can we actually do to, steer AI in the right direction? Make sure it's a force for good, not a source of new problems.
One really crucial area is pushing for stronger regulations, and ethical frameworks around AI development and how it's used. Remember those data privacy violations we talked about? Well, we need strong laws in place to protect that consumer data and hold companies accountable for how they're using AI.
So it's not just about the tech itself, but about the rules of the road, right? How it's used, what's acceptable, what's not.
Exactly. We need to set those boundaries, and make sure there are consequences for those who cross the line. Clear regulations can help create a level playing field, a more responsible AI ecosystem.
Okay, that makes sense. But making new laws and regulations, that takes time. So what can we do right now while we're waiting for those things to happen?
We can support those organizations and initiatives that are already out there promoting responsible AI development.
Yeah.
There are groups advocating for transparency, accountability, and fairness in AI. They're doing really important work.
So, what kind of work?
Well, they're developing ethical guidelines for AI development and creating tools to audit AI systems for bias. Just a lot of good stuff.
So there are people actively trying to make sure AI is used ethically. That's good to hear.
For sure. And it's not just up to the experts, We can all do our part.
All right, I'm ready to join this AI responsibility movement. What can I do as just a regular person to make a difference?
One of the biggest things you can do is, stay informed. Educate yourself about the potential risks and benefits of AI. Keep up with what's happening, new developments and all that. The more we understand about this tech, the better we can advocate for its responsible use.
So keep listening to the deep dive. Got it.
Right. And be mindful of the data you're sharing online.
Okay.
Remember those targeted ads? Well, a lot of those are powered by the data we often give away without even thinking about it.
So read the fine print, those terms and conditions we always ignore.
Exactly. Be aware of what you're sharing and support those companies that care about data privacy and are using AI ethically. And if you see something that seems off, that doesn't feel right, a creepy ad, a biased algorithm, whatever, speak up. Don't be afraid to challenge things.
So be an informed citizen, right? We've got to play a role in shaping how AI impacts our lives.
Well said. The future of AI isn't some set path. you know? It's something we're all shaping through our choices and our actions. And the more we understand those risks, the better equipped we'll be to navigate this new landscape and make sure AI serves humanity, not the other way around.
That's a great way to put it. It's not about being afraid of AI, it's about understanding it and taking action to make sure it's used for good.
Exactly. And it's a conversation that needs to keep happening.
Yeah.
AI is always changing, new challenges will pop up, we have to stay engaged, keep asking questions, and be willing to adapt.
So there's no easy fix, no one solution. It's an ongoing process.
Right.
Learning, adapting, and working together to make sure AI is a force for good.
Exactly. And the more of us that are involved, the better.
Well, huge thanks to our expert for taking us on this deep dive, exploring this fascinating world of AI risk management.
My pleasure.
And to all our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, you can find more info about responsible AI development and how you can get involved in the show notes. There's even a link to that Telegram group that was mentioned in the document if you want to dive even deeper. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.